First of all, really wanted to say big thank you today for everyone joining the session. The session is really going to be focusing on how budget-friendly technology is closing gaps for the SEN community. My name is Marcus Rioch. I work as School Success Lead for Boost AI. And Boost AI has created a AI-driven personalized learning platform, which really adapts to the needs of primary and secondary pupils in maths and literacy. And we're really fortunate today to have Alicia Drummond and also Guy Griffith. Alicia, could you just give a little bit of an intro on yourself to start with? That'd be great.
Absolutely, yeah, it's lovely to be with you. So I'm Alicia Drummond. I'm a therapist, psychotherapist. I'm also a parent coach, an author, a mother, and I founded something called Teen Tips, which our main product now is the Wellbeing Hub, which is all about supporting school communities with their mental health and wellbeing.
And Guy, let's hear from you as well.
Hello, my name's Guy Griffith. I'm a teacher in a small sort of AP style school in Salisbury called Brunel College. We work with students who've been excluded from mainstream education, mainly for SEMH reasons, but also with some SEN students aged between 13 and 16, so end of Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. And I am currently a maths teacher. I've been many teachers in my time, currently teaching maths, and I'm using the Boost app, and I'm a big fan of the Boost app. So I'm very happy to turn up today and talk about how we use it in our school. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you. Just a bit of basic housekeeping for the webinar. The session is being recorded, so we'll share the link and the notes with everyone later. If you've got any questions during the webinar, there's a Q&A box down towards the bottom. Please do put questions in, and I'll be joined by my colleague Seda Arslan later at the end to address any of those questions. If we can't address any of those questions there and then, we'll get back to you and to the group. All participants are being muted to reduce background noise. We're hoping, from a timing perspective, to be between 35 and 40 minutes, more if everyone's having fun. So we'll make a start really on kind of the framework for today, which is across schools, we're really seeing the same challenge. Pupils who learn differently often fall behind, not because of their kind of ability, but really because of the support isn't available, it's not consistent, and it's not visible. So we've built this session really to focus around 8 pillars, as we call them, to show how the right technology and attributes can make a very big difference. These 8 pillars are really kind of very interconnected, and what they do is they help every pupil thrive at their own pace, and what we're aiming to do is make sure that no one is left behind in real time. So could we please first of all go to the first pillar, which is accessibility. Thank you. So accessibility and accessible technology keeps learning very continuous for every SEND pupil. Having 24/7 interactive access lets students revisit materials anytime so that they can learn at their own pace in a judgment-free zone. Tools like AI, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, predictive typing, what they do is they really help students to focus on understanding the content. Adaptive platforms such as Boost adjust difficulty and pace in real time, offering support before the confidence drops. Parents also are very, very important in this process. Parents can gain clear insights into the progress, strengthening that kind of homeschool collaboration so that everyone's really on the same page. I think the key thing, though, is that technology, any technology, must be easy to use. It must remove barriers. with things like voice navigation, simplified layouts, and alternative input methods, which these things are vital for students with attention, visual, or motor challenges to engage independently. So Alicia, my first question really to you was, how does this kind of open access and parental visibility affect pupils' confidence and sense of belonging?
Well, you've said quite a lot of it, but I think the main thing is that it will helps them to feel less anxious about being left behind, less anxious about needing extra practice. So we take the shame factor out, which is hugely important because shame stops an awful lot of progression and growth. And I think being able to practice independently with support that they can get gives them that sense of mastery, which then builds self-efficacy. And our self-efficacy is our confidence in our competence. So it's a very key pillar of resilience. So it's super important. In terms of the parental visibility into a child's progress, I think that really encourages those constructive conversations at home, because parents can see where their child is succeeding and celebrate, or struggling and offer the appropriate support. I mean, we have to be mindful that there is, of course, the potential for too much monitoring, which can ultimately lead to those really highly pressured environments, which we know are deeply unhelpful for children's well-being. But I think in most cases, actually knowing that your parents can view and support your efforts helps children feel connected and actually like their progress really matters to the adults around them.
Yeah. So effectively, it allows pupils the independence to take real kind of ownership of their learning, doesn't it?
Yeah, ownership and risk,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for that. We're going to move on to personalized learning now, which is a big part of kind of how Boost supports schools and pupils and teachers. It helps SEND pupils really thrive at their own pace. I use those words quite a lot because I think it's so key, that thrive word. Structured steps reduce the anxiety and build confidence through visible progress. Breaking learning into kind of these manageable tasks prevents overwhelmment, overload, and promotes clarity and a real sense of calm. AI-driven systems, they tailor content and pacing to each pupil's strengths and gaps, and it supports self-paced growth. Adaptive stretch activities, which are embedded into a lot of these platforms, they keep early finishers, those working beyond the classroom level, they keep them engaged. It avoids frustration of being held back whilst maintaining kind of steady challenge. And then these keywords, kind of reflection and return, which I think is missing in quite a lot of class environments nowadays. This reinforces the learning and it allows time to revisit and improve, and it strengthens memory, metacognition, and resilience. So I think together, all of that, what it does, it creates this kind of personalized progress that supports every pupil to move forward confidently and, again, that word, independently. So Guy, my question for you here is, how do you see structure and pacing reducing anxiety for SEND pupils day to day?
So I think obviously structure is really important. What I'd like to talk about mostly though is the pacing. So the structure is always there. The structure is there whenever they come in, but the way that our students present when they come in is very different every day. So whether that's due to mood, tiredness, lack of sleep, events that are happening outside of school, struggles in their home life, we never know quite what they're going to be like when they turn up at school. So it's that being able to pace the lesson according to their needs. We have lots of students with ADHD, and on a good day, or when they're not tired and when they're in the right headspace, they can come in. They can be very hyper focused. They can work their way through reams of paper-based resources. We do use online resources as well, but it's amazing how many are quite traditional in their choice of they love a worksheet. You know, we try and encourage them to work in other ways, but they do love a worksheet. And often once they're in that at that pace, they want more. They're getting it, they're understanding it, and it's really important to keep that there for them. What we don't want to do, obviously, is scare them off by giving them too much too soon. So we have been using the Boost Ask Similar Question option. So within Boost, you can point the Boost camera at a question and obviously use all the Boost features, but then get Boost to recommend a similar question, ask similar question. So it means rather than them having to come back to me and ask for more work, which in our setting, again, there's a lot of, it's not cool to be asking for more work. It's not cool to be seen to be enjoying learning. So the fact that they can then get additional work without having to flag it up that they're going ahead. And we also have a lot of learning takes place outside of the classroom, with LSAs supporting students who, for whatever reason, don't feel comfortable coming into the classroom. And sometimes that's every lesson, sometimes that's just due to, again, mood, tiredness, whatever they're feeling at that particular point. So again, it enables the LSAs to use Boost to firstly to mark that work or to support them, show them how to the steps without the LSAs needing to be trained maths teachers. And then secondly, if they finish and they've completed the tasks, we can keep giving them those extra questions to support them. So yeah, pace I think is the real, I mean, structure is always there, but pace, we never know what pace they're going to be working at on that day.
Fantastic. One of the comments I can remember from this webinar is they love a worksheet. You love a worksheet. That's brilliant. Love that, Guy.
Well, it's frustrating. It's disappointing, but then it's we're going to support them.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move on to clarity now. I think everyone needs.
Can I just butt in there, Marcus? Because what I think about the personalised learning very quickly is that it improves relationships. It improves their relationship with the work. It improves their relationship with their teacher because they can go at the right pace. They don't feel under so much pressure. It improves, therefore, their relationship with themselves. So that internal dialogue improves. And it also kind of knocks on the head some of that compare and despair culture stuff that goes on when they feel like they're working kind of against their peers rather than being on their own little journey. Anyway, that's just my
I know. Thanks for that, Alicia. Definitely. I mean, I think we'll move on to clarity now. I think any platform has to be super clear from the start. There's a lot of distractions in school and in SEND environment, with ADHD being very much a visible challenge in schools. Clarity has to be of the most important thing that we solve. So live dashboards, for example, tracks progress in real time, and then the visibility actually builds trust. So every step forward is kind of recognizing that no one slips through unseen. I think errors being flagged, but being flagged really empathetically, not you've got it wrong, but actually being told in a very kind of empathetic way how they get it wrong, turns those mistakes into learning moments, reducing their fear through immediate feedback. Next steps shown, these steps being shown automatically, saving teachers time and matching to each pupil's level. We call that kind of automated differentiation. And then wider progress tracking, which links academic and emotional growth. It unites families and staff around the one clear picture, which has to be progress. Alicia, on that one, why do you think kind of clarity is such a powerful tool in lowering stress for SEND pupils?
I think because actually it reduces the cognitive load, so they're much less likely to get to that point of cognitive overload. And by that, I mean at that kind of state of mental exhaustion, which is really caused by having too many demands, too many things coming at you at any one time, so that your working memory ends up being sort of flooded. It's a bit like, you know, when you've got your laptop open and you've got too many tabs open. So I think that actually, you know, then once you get to cognitive overload, your decision making gets worse, your memory retention gets worse. Then they kind of get the picture. Yeah, now I'm falling behind, and they are, and it's true. And then the anxiety starts to spike. So for me, clarity is massively important in terms of lowering stress, stopping them getting to that point of feeling overloaded when we go into fight, flight, freeze, flop, fawn. And I think the one we often miss in schools is fawn, because they're the really easy, good ones that want to please, but actually they're as dysregulated as somebody who's gone into fight. And so for me, that's why clarity is really, really important.
Thank you. An area we'll move on to now is real-time adaptation, an area where Boost is very, very strong. So when we talk about real-time adaptation, we think, well, it means learning that reacts instantly to each pupil's needs. It spots success, but it spots difficulties, recognizes patterns and triggers support before frustration builds. And historically, that couldn't happen. Everyone was working at the same pace. And it was very difficult for us to be able to cater, teachers to be able to cater for those individual needs. What AI does, which is the kind of the engine room of what Boost does, is, I mean, it analyzes every interaction live, and it provides, someone's at my front door. It provides, probably Amazon. It provides fine-tuning, pace, and challenge, so that pupils stay really engaged and confident. As you'll see here from this slide here, really the key bits here are learner-driven insight, immediate adjustment. So what immediate adjustment does, it lets teachers act the moment there are problems, focusing support where it counts most. Varied pathways, understanding that pupils do not all move at the same rate, and that visual, auditory, or interactive programs such as Boost have to be able to cater for those different pathways. What we're really trying to do here, though, is to ensure inclusive access for every pupil, so that they progress at their own pace. It's guided, their work is guided by evidence and strengthened through continuous feedback to their teacher. And that gives them a huge amount of reassurance. Guy, a question for you, really, really keen to hear this. Can you share an example of how real-time feedback changed the kind of the direction of a lesson or a pupil outcome?
Yep. So we've got a really good group of year 11 students who, as is often the way in year 11, have suddenly realized that GCSEs are happening. They can't avoid them. They've been with us, some of them since year 9. So they feel really safe in our environment. And many of them refused to come into maths lessons during year 10. So they spent a lot of time out of the classroom. We have a lot of Thrive and ELSA practitioners here, so they've really worked on developing their confidence, and now they're finally coming into the classroom, which is brilliant. What we're finding is there are significant gaps in their learning, which we were aware that were there, but they're starting to show self-reflection. So they're starting to be aware, this is what went wrong, this is what I understood at primary school, this is what I don't understand. Can you now teach me this? And obviously we're going to try and do that. We've got a short amount of time before GCSEs, so we're just trying to focus on those key skills. And having a maximum of 5 students in a classroom, but again, it would, really high teacher student ratio. We've got 1 LSA, but when you have 5 students who are all working and all demanding of real-time feedback, it's brilliant. I love it. It's what I'm here to do, but I can't be treating each of them with the timing that I would like to, and I'm giving them that feedback. And again, so this is where I'm using Boost. We're trying to encourage this kind of independent working, getting the LSAs to use Boost as well, so that they can get that feedback. They're still, very much in need. Humans are not going to be obsolete for a long time, hopefully, but it means that they can check their own work. They can look at the steps if they don't understand something. You talked about that clarity. I will often give them 3 different ways of solving a maths problem. They only want one way. When I say you could do it this way or you could do it that way, they just want that one way. And when they get it, it's brilliant, because they're going from sort of key stage 2 level, and then suddenly they're possibly over the course of 1 or 2 lessons, they jumped up to GCSE. They have the ability. They just needed someone to take the time to show them the steps and to give them the reassurance and the encouragement that they get from knowing that what they've done is right. So, and if you get the level of challenge wrong with our students, you'll know about it straight away. That will be, it will be thrown back at you. They'll be walking out of the lesson. If you get the level too low, they'll be bored. They'll be, again, playing up. So being able to instantly change what you're delivering, even within that same lesson, and have the evidence to look back after the lesson and see, right, okay, yeah, they have got this. That's what it's all about, really.
Thank you, Guy. We'll move on to actionable insights, which is really about decision making on the back of actually seeing what gaps there are. Revealing gaps is absolutely crucial here for all students, but in the situation of SEND pupils, they will need help a lot more of the time. And AI platforms, as an example, can identify emerging patterns, and they trigger interventions very early, ensuring that the support reaches the right pupil at the right moment. And I think it's improving the decision-making process by replacing kind of what might be kind of instinct with clear live data. So it's kind of evidence informed, and that can then guide every action and focus time kind of really where it matters most. We see at a glance clarity. What this does is it turns complex information into simple visuals, so that teachers can act immediately and keep learning moving. And most importantly, every insight becomes an action. So it aligns staff, it sustains momentum, and also it keeps every pupil progressing confidently and continuously in real time. So Alicia, with that in mind, how can real-time insights like these support emotional well-being?
Well, I think Guy's kind of said it, actually, because it's all about feeling safe, and an awful lot of what schools are trying to do all the time is create that sense of psychological safety. In other words, an environment where people feel like they can ask questions, they can get things wrong, they can make mistakes, that there's not going to be judgment. And I think when staff are working, this allows staff to work at the right pace. So you prevent either, as Guy says, them becoming bored or being overwhelmed. Because the minute you get into those situations, their behaviour is likely to become unhelpful for them, if not for everybody else as well. So I think those actionable insights, it's a fantastic way to do it, because it's seems to me like an easy way to keep everybody engaged and on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Workload reduction is when I go to quite a lot of conferences, and I'm speaking to heads, what they'll tell me is the last thing they actually want to hear at the top of the list is workload reduction. It just needs to be phrased differently, that actually it's not just less work for teachers now, but it's more that it's replacing the drudgery of repetitive binary marking in something like maths with more kind of high value tasks such as coaching and mentoring. So when we talk about workload reduction, there are really four categories. One is reducing and simplifying the planning time for teachers. Definitely removing administration more generally. So digital records, prevent duplication, communication tools, keep staff and families aligned as well. Automated differentiation is a huge part of what Boost does, and what AI personalized learning platforms can do, because they adjust instantly to the pupil's level and stops a one-size-fits-all solution. And because it's built on live data, teachers spot really, really quickly, and it ensures the support reaches pupils quickly, keeping SEND learners progressing without delay or anyone really being left behind. Guy, on this subject of kind of workload reduction, how is automation, how do you see automation or simplification changing how you spend your teaching time?
So I think it's very early days, and I wouldn't say I've seen that much reduction in my workload now, but I am knowing that it's coming very soon, basically. So I think I look into a lot of ed tech. I use a lot of, or I look into AI planning, and I've used it a lot for differentiation, which is brilliant. Creating resources that are differentiated. We have students who are working, we do quite a lot of functional skills. So we've got students in year 11 who are working at entry 1, which is similar to some key stage 1, very basic concepts. And then we've got students who are working at GCSE level and capable of achieving a higher GCSE level. So being able to differentiate between those students in an instant is fantastic. That is definitely saving me time. I think it's the future that is, I think there's so much change at the moment, and it's trying to work out what route do we use, what software do we use, what apps do we use. But it's coming, and it's coming very soon. It's already, I think, this academic year, but by the time we get to spring, I know that we'll be using there's the SPAG option within Boost, for example, which we haven't explored yet. We'll be using that a lot in English classrooms. Getting it out there, sharing it with colleagues is a big thing as well. There's a lot of people who want to use it but don't know how to use it yet. I'm looking forward. I've got some year 11 GCSE mocks going on at the moment. And again, luckily, unlike some teachers, we have small classes, small groups. So I will be marking the work myself, but I also want the students to use Boost to mark their own work. And I see moving forward, you've still in my setting, you want that individualized, personalized marking. I can't outsource that to someone, but I can use the app to make it quicker. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just looking forward to the future.
Thank you. As you look at our final two slides, I think I want to talk about adaptability briefly. When we talk about adaptability, we think about continuous feedback and how it shapes teaching really moment by moment, and it creates lessons that respond with that learner's competency. We think about level matching. We talked about level matching before, i.e. aligning tasks to ability so that pupils don't feel frustrated or overwhelmed. Evolving pathways, ensuring progress continues as pupils grow. Example generation we haven't talked about, but we'll show you that in the brief demo later. So example generation saves teachers lots of time. So being able to actually ask a similar question based on something that they just learned, that really kind of galvanizes real life understanding, deepening engagement and confidence. I think really kind of for SEND pupils, adaptability means learning that flexes and it evolves, and it maintains motivation and steady progress for every learner. Alicia, from a well-being angle, what happens when pupils feel that the learning is moving with them and not against them? I mean, it's obvious, but I'd love to hear your take on that.
I think I might have kind of already answered it in lots of ways, Marcus. It is very much about exactly what you said. It's going with me, not against me. And the result of that is I'm more likely to feel and feel good about myself because I'm in control. And I think, if we think about well-being, having a sense of power and control is enormously important for us. And I think often, perhaps in more traditional settings, it's kind of my way or the highway which is the old ways of teaching, whereas this way gives them ownership and that sense of choice and control, which helps them, I think, to feel well on top of what's going on, which improves their relationship with themselves. It reduces the frustration that they're likely to feel in a group setting, and so it's going to improve relationships across the classroom for pupils to staff, but also pupil to pupil. Great,
thank you. We're just going to go to our last slide now, really, which is data-driven intervention, which sounds a bit dry, but it's so important. I think what it does, it focuses the teaching, and it allows real precision in terms of how teachers understand what is happening from a class perspective, but also from an individual perspective. Boost is an example, as a personalized learning platform. It adjusts in flight to keep lessons really responsive as understanding shifts, and it allows teachers to keep pace and really approach individual pupils differently. We think about tracking mastery. It shows when pupils have secured concepts and are ready to move on, and it reinforces the confidence at each step. Really, really important in terms of communicating with parents as well, especially at secondary school, where you don't really understand what's happening with our pupils because they don't tell us much. Being able to see kind of where they are in alignment with the curriculum is really, really helpful in terms of visibility. So, Guy, what difference does it make when the data, you've seen as a Boost user, what difference does it make when data shows you exactly who needs the support and when?
Oh, I mentioned about our students who are often working outside the classroom. So we do have, I was chatting to someone about a student today who's been with us for a year and has not been in a single maths lesson. But she is capable of doing maths. She's quite an able student, and she will work with LSAs outside the classroom. So it's sort of a control thing. I'm personally not a great believer in the label of PDA, but certainly fitting that profile of that need to have that control. What I can see now is that when she's working with an LSA outside the classroom, I can see what she's getting right, but also how much she's relying on that tool. I get feedback from the LSA, obviously, anyway. I get to see the work that is done, but in terms of the data that's provided, that's really helpful. Often the offsite might be outreach, or it could be we have a separate satellite site. So rather than having to constantly be liaising with those staff, I can see that in the dashboard. So it's good for me.
Thank you both very much for your engaging involvement in the webinar. It's brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to now just do a very brief demo of Boost, which is what Guy uses. And hopefully what it will do is really highlight the areas that we flagged today and how modern technology and budget-friendly technology that is really closing these gaps. So I'm just going to share my screen with you, and I'm just going to, hopefully you should be able to see. Can you all see kind of Boost, if that's okay? Yeah, great. Okay, so it's just going to be a little video which I'll talk you through. So this is Boost, which is the platform. It's an app which can be downloaded from Chromebooks onto Chromebooks and onto iPads, and onto all mobile. This is Sasha. Sasha is at West Rylands School. Here's our teacher, Amy Wells. So what Boost is a personalised learning platform for primary and secondary pupils for maths and English and literacy. They take a picture of any problem that they don't understand. It reads handwriting using optical character recognition. So it uses the cameras on the devices in alignment with AI and trained teachers to provide empathetic breakdown of answers for pupils and to Socratically help them to go and understand the answer to a question. So they press a new question at the bottom, and this is an example of a pupil who has answered the first question right, but then they've answered the first question anyway, and then the second question they have partially answered. So all they will do is put the device camera, the piece of paper, or the behind the camera, and then it will then frame it. It will read the handwriting, and you'll see there are 4 modes here. Check my work, solve step by step, solve together, and ask a similar question. Check my work, as it would suggest, goes and marks it, and it reads the handwriting. And then it will tell them if they've got it right and very clearly show them where they got it wrong, but in a very kind, empathetic way. Solve step by step is aligned to the curriculum for secondary and also for primary schools for maths and literacy. It shows the official steps to actually get to that answer, but curated by teachers from primary and secondary schools. Solve Together is a great piece of functionality which enables pupils to go and answer in steps, so that teachers can see the personalized learning journey of every pupil. Ask a similar question, as it would suggest, they go and ask a similar question at that level and at that topic within the curriculum, whether it be literacy or maths. So in this instance, it's confirmed that the pupil has answered the first one right. It's friendly, but without being gimmicky and kind of patronizing. We use it with our robot just to make it friendly. And then you'll see the second one. It hasn't said you got it wrong. It's just said in a really friendly way, you haven't completed this. And it's then gone and closed the gaps for them to get to the right answer. Then what we also embed is the chat function, which we call Boost Bridge on the right. And this is a fantastic feature which allows a child or a student to basically interrogate anything they don't understand, and as if the teacher was in the room, to be able to go and have that individual conversation without the stigma of being the me too or pick me person. And then knowing and being reassured that a teacher can actually see any way in which a pupil is engaging with the platform. All this data is then continually crunched. So a teacher doesn't need to go through this. They know it's safe because it's only been trained on maths and English. They know it's in alignment with the curriculum. And all of this data folds into a teacher portal. And that teacher portal is real time. So it's creating a synopsis from a time perspective or based on a piece of work, and says, these are the gaps, these are the pupils who are struggling. How do we know that? We know that because of their responses and the prompts, and also the way in which they're engaging with the platform. It will then go and show very clearly who is working beyond, who is working at, and who actually needs that extra support, and who is on track. It then also, for English and maths, it splits up the whole of the English and maths curriculum. And then it says, where are all the questions being asked? You know, where do I, as a teacher, need to spend my time? It's evidence informed. That's come up a lot today. Then you'll see here the kind of questions. How are they engaging with the platform? Do we want pupils constantly pressing solve? Not a bad thing. It's not plagiarism because it's so visible. But we obviously at some stage want to stop that happening. We want pupils solving together and being much more Socratic in the way they approach problem solving. You'll see here then that the teacher can also then go and have a look from an individual perspective as well. Particularly important in terms of a parent being able to have real-time access to this. Imagine a parent being able to go from one parent evening to the next 4 months later, and they can just go and run a report and know that they're on the same page as their teacher. We have exciting plans this to be translated into over 20 world languages for parents that don't have English as a first language as well. So it's about communication. I'm just going to finish with this. This shows the individual performance for those for a child within all components of the curriculum and their progress throughout the academic year. I'm